My office, it's a 12 by 12 cage made out of wood, iron, and steel. There are no coffee breaks. Meetings are dog eat dog. And my coworkers, 400-pound men that want to drill me into the floor. Just another day at the office.
Pump up with Sting and the big boys of the WCW, live on WCW Monday Nitro, every Monday night at 8 on TNT.
400-pound men that want to drill me into the floor.
Huh. Drilling. Former WWE star Sting made his wrestling return on Wednesday night's ridiculously stacked episode of AEW Dynamite, marking the first time he's been on a TNT wrestling show since WCW folded almost 20 years ago. And it wasn't just all of us marking out with shock, so were the AEW wrestlers backstage. Speaking on John Alba's Living the Gimmick podcast, the Young Bucks revealed Sting's debut was something we've been sitting on for a little while, including right up to that actual segment it happened in. Apparently, the vast majority of the roster were also caught by surprise, with them only finding out as Sting was walked from his trailer in the back that he'd been hiding in all day through the common area to the entranceway. As he walked by, he just walked straight through where he needed to get to, and all the boys and girls' heads were turning like it was The Exorcist. They were like, what? Occasional AEW cameo and critic of the promotion, Eric Bischoff's head was also seemingly turned. After previously saying the company needed to innovate more to bring in new viewers, what he actually meant was do something that I did 2 decades ago. I'm excited about the possibilities with the addition of Sting to the AEW roster and the potential of the story going forward. So far, they've over-delivered on one very important story element and have laid an intriguing foundation for another. I'm in. Oh, just interrupting that, I'm getting some more breaking news. Wrestling fans buy t-shirts. Because AEW's primary business model is just being a t-shirt company, the debut of Sting was ingeniously timed with his new merch launching in the busiest shopping period of the year, leading Pro Wrestling Tees to announce Sting has set a new record for the most shirts sold in 24 hours, which they called even before the 24 hours were up. So with all the excitement, buzz, and bits of fake snow beginning to settle, what's actually going to happen with Sting in AEW? As announced on Dynamite, the 61-year-old has signed a multi-year contract with the promotion, and according to Dave Meltzer, that isn't just a WWE Legends deal where he appears a handful of times a year in Saudi Arabia to beat your favorite wrestler for the title. It's actually more substantial than a Scotch egg, with him being described as a regular character on television to consistently tie AEW to their wrestling predecessor on TNT, WCW. Meltzer reported Sting will be physical, but he speculated that wouldn't involve actually taking any bumps. Sting retired back in 2015 because of spinal stenosis. He has since had surgery though, and has said in interviews that he could do one last match, but that would only be with The Undertaker. Undertaker to AEW confirmed! Before we get on with the rest of the episode, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to this video's sponsor, Keeps. Did you know 2 out of 3 guys will experience male pattern baldness by the time they're 35? WrestleTalk, bringing up the average. And the best way to prevent that is to act now while you still have hair left. Enter Keeps, who offer generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products out there, which means they're significantly cheaper, and the sooner you start using it, the more hair you'll save. And best of all, especially right now when sitting on your couch is the best way to serve your country, Keeps lets you visit a doctor online to get the medication delivered straight to your door every 3 months, which means less awkward pharmacy visits, like, true story, this one, where I went for a hair consultation and they just drew all over my head, reminding me how much hair I've lost. It was a weird tube journey back. So take action now and prevent hair loss by going to keeps.com/WrestleTalk using our links below to get 50% off your first order, and find out why Keeps has more 5-star reviews than any of its competitors. Please at least check them out, as it doesn't just support us all here at WrestleTalk, it also supports your hair. Sting debuting in AEW arguably wasn't even the most newsworthy thing on the episode, as after cheating to become the new AEW champion, Kenny Omega ran out the building and Don Callis revealed they'd explain all on Tuesday night's episode of Impact Wrestling. According to Fightful Select, some of the Impact Wrestling roster had heard rumours of the angle before last week's final batch of 2020 tapings. But when it was brought up to management, they were told there wasn't much to it. Instead, they just knew Callis, who is Impact Wrestling's executive vice president, was going to be working an angle in AEW, but they weren't sure the extent of it. Fascinatingly, the Wrestling Observer have revealed the Callis angle has been in the works for a while, predating him showing up in AEW over the last several months, either in Chris Jericho appreciation videos or doing commentary for Kenny Omega matches. Fightful have added this was not the first pitch between the companies, implying they've been trying to figure something out for a while. Meltzer pointed out that Callis is partly responsible for the formation of AEW, as Tony Khan first had the idea when he saw the Chris Jericho vs Kenny Omega match at Wrestle Kingdom, which Callis put together. Although you wouldn't know it, he hardly ever speaks about it. Co-executive vice presidents themselves, the Young Bucks, have revealed the idea of Impact and AEW working together even stretches back further, saying they first pitched an angle 2 years ago, but we just couldn't get everyone to agree on what the creative would be. The Bucks persisted though, whispering in Tony Khan's ear for 2 years, particularly in the months before AEW launched on Dynamite, where the Bucks and Cody would show up unannounced on indie shows, and when they wanted to do a Ring of Honor Impact crossover feud with the Hardy Boys. They admitted it's still so early, they don't know the extent of the relationship, but there are immediate plans they can't exactly just give away right now. There are some big surprises coming, and they're really excited about it. But then they couldn't really help themselves from giving stuff away, as they started to fantasy book themselves in a Motor City Machine Guns rematch 10 years after their feud in TNA. And their fantasy booking carries a lot of weight, because they're actually in charge of booking the storyline. Right now, however, a full-scale interpromotional invasion war might be getting ahead of ourselves. Meltzer tempered expectations, saying AEW and Impact are going to be working together to a degree. And Fightful Select added, nobody in the Impact locker room expects a full crossover to happen, although they're happy about the buzz cast on their show. The interest is set to give Tuesday's episode of Impact one of its highest ratings in years. As the promotion has already finished taping all their shows through 2020 though, PW Insider and Fightful both note Omega and Callis will film a segment to be inserted into the episode. Additionally, Meltzer notes Omega will also have a segment on the following day's Dynamite, which is being taped today. Omega's first week as champion may be a sign of things to come in wrestling's suddenly far more cooperative looking 2021, as he'll be appearing as the AEW champion on Tuesday's Impact, and then Wednesday's episode of AEW Dynamite. Then a few days later, he'll be defending his AAA Mega Championship in Mexico's biggest show of the year, Triple Mania, on Saturday 12th. But what does this mean for the all-important ratings? Thanks for your support on Patreon, Superkick, Nick Mazesco, and the Kessel Run DX Solo. Because he's a stats man. Tony Khan revealed AEW scored their highest rating since September. Thank you, great fans who made AEW Dynamite Winter is Coming a huge success for AEW and TNT. We got our best demo rating of 2020 and a new AEW champion, Kenny Omega, and an indelible memory with Sting's arrival, and won the night, pointing out AEW's 913,000 viewers with a huge 0.42 in the key 18 to 49 demo, alongside NXT's respectable 658,000, which only scored a 0.16, which Retribution replied with Raw's viewership, T-Bar 1.74 million. Partial credit. The most important thing to take from all of this though is that, despite everything going on in the world, wrestling is the best in-ring and creatively than it's been for years and years and years. And combined, a lot of people are watching it now, with Wednesday night shows together getting 1.57 million viewers. And anyway, it's a marathon. not a sprint, which is why Triple H has reminded everyone NXT can do invasions too. With all the news coming out of Wednesday's Dynamite, it's easy to forget this Sunday we'll see one of the highlights of the wrestling year.
War Games!
Triple H took part in his usual pre-takeover media calls, where he was asked whether NXT would ever look at a true interpromotional angle like AEW and Impact had just pulled off. Hunter answered that he's open for business in a lot of ways. Ew, Kingslayer. But it has to be beneficial to us long term. And again, when I say long term, I'm not talking about 3 months or 6 months. Long term. 10 years, 10 years. 15 years from now. Is that beneficial? Is that meaningful? Is that long term? That's how we think. Yes, WWE. Famous for their long-term thinking. Triple H also cited the working relationships they've had in the past, mentioning Progress, ICW and Evolve, because to WWE, buying promotions and gutting them to start NXT UK counts as a beneficial long-term partnership. WWE did do a working relationship with themselves last year when NXT invaded the main roster because the main roster was stuck in Saudi Arabia. But despite NXT's success at Survivor Series 2019, the brand didn't feature at all in last month's show, and Triple H has confirmed exactly why. I'm not in every aspect of creative decisions, but I also believe for the creative teams, as they're trying to build individual talents, they're not combining things too much. I also believe that COVID and the pandemic situation took a role in that. We tried to keep things somewhat separated between brands, between Performance Center, between things, just to limit that exposure. And that wasn't the only thing COVID affected, as we finally have an update on Triple H telling us Charlotte Flair beating Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania, and then beating everyone in NXT, and then dropping the NXT Championship without actually being pinned would eventually make sense. And now Hunter has admitted it won't, because everything changed because of the pandemic, making it hard to plan for next week, let alone next year or next month. But he does think Ripley has emerged from this a more mature performer, because there's nothing like crippling disappointment to prepare you for life on the main roster. Speaking of crippling disappointment, Andy Datson has finally finished his dance music video punishment for coming last in Wrestle League at SummerSlam, which our Patreons cruelly voted to be Kelly Kelly's entrance theme, which will be stuck in your head all weekend. Legit thank you to Andy's dad Trevor for mixing the audio for us. I love you. I'm sorry. Roll the tape.
Also, telling nightclubs, theatres, cinemas, gyms, and leisure centres to close.
Telling nightclubs to close. Telling nightclubs to close. Telling nightclubs. Telling nightclubs to close.
So my girls in the club say, cause you know just how we do. Side to side, front to back, if you ain't taking that. Holla, holla, holla.
For satisfaction, you're independent, get your own things right there.
Holla, holla, holla.
For satisfaction, you're independent, get your own things right there.
Oh, this beat is hot, tonight it's on. I'm feeling sexy, I want to be in control. Handle my business, I'm not afraid. I'm doing nothing, and I'm doing this tonight. So my girls in the club say, cause you know just how we do. Side to side, front to back, if you ain't taking that. Holla, holla, holla.
For satisfaction, you're independent, get your own things right there.
Holla, holla, holla.
For satisfaction, you're independent, get your own things right there.
Oh, I know you like what you see. Are you sure you want to stick to me? Hop in my jack, baby, we can go. Just remember, you gotta keep it on the low. The girls in the club say, cause you know just how we do. Side to side, front to back, if you ain't taking that. Holla, holla, holla.
For satisfaction, you're independent, get your own things right there.
Holla, holla, holla.
For satisfaction, you're independent, get your own things right there.
push down straight. When we pull up in the club, my boys pop in. We independent, we don't need it, but we take what you got. We all hot outside, so hit the top on the drop. I'm understanding you can't stand me cause I'm so outstanding. Fools demand me like I'm candy cause my body's slamming. I'm always fly, always shine, always grind. More than a diamond, don't even try. So all my girls in the club say cause you know just how we do. Side to side, front to back. If you ain't taking that, holla, holla, holla.
For satisfaction, you independent, get your own things right there.
Holla, holla, holla.
For satisfaction, you independent, get your own things right there.
If you want to watch that all in full again because presumably you hate yourself, click the video on the right and subscribe to Wrestle2. And also please support this channel and your hair by going to keeps.com/WrestleTalk. The link's in the video description below. And combat hair loss now. I've been Mr. Davis. Jam that jam.